Okay, it's in sport mode. I was trying to get it. I just got this thing, okay, sir?
Sir, I
I'm so
literally
sorry.
saw you run the stop sign,
I'm sorry.
make a left turn,
I'm sorry, sir.
and then hop on the gas. I was sitting right at the
I'm
intersection.
so sorry, sir.
So your excuses?
I saw a
are
car
not-
coming, and I...
You
wanted
didn't,
to get-
because I was sitting right there.
Well,
I
I saw the car
everything.
coming, and I wanted to get out before them.
And then you dropped on the gas
I know,
and took
I know.
off.
I'm so sorry, sir.
I need to see your insurance card, please.
Oh. You got the registration?
Yeah, there was no reason for that at
I
all.
know,
I
I
would
know.
put people's lives into safety
I
and
know. I
everything.
just found out. I'm trying to tell you the truth, guy. I just found out that Putin is just said he's going to launch nuclear thermal war against the world. I was trying to get back to my house to find out what's going on. I'm freaking out here, guy. Okay? I got people in the Ukraine.
Got caught speeding? Blame Putin. I'm surprised more people haven't started to blame all of their problems on Putin. And of course, that proud man, of course, was from Florida. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski here of WeAreChange.org. And in horrible situations, you could either laugh or cry. I choose to laugh, but we are still in a very serious situation. As of course, the stakes are getting higher, and it looks like the conflict is just starting in Ukraine, as some military strategists have a very interesting theory of what's going on right now. We will be talking about that, plus a lot more with all the latest developments from, of course, the larger car crash that is international geopolitics. And in related car crash news, the President of the United States just had his annual State of the Union address, which, of course, didn't bring a lot of confidence to the American people. Sounded like a larger campaign speech, as, of course, there was lots of promises, lots of false claims, lots of mispronounced words, moments of as a large portion of the nation were holding their breath, hoping for some competency from this leadership. As parts of this country were holding their breath, hoping for some competency from the President of the United States, as he called the Chinese President Xi Jinping and made other gaffes around the Iranian people. This as he promised cheaper insulin prices, as of course he was the president that of course ended the previous president's executive order doing so. And very interestingly, he also promised secure borders, funding the police, and bringing back American manufacturing, even at one particular time, word by word copying the previous president of the United States, which surprised a lot of people. Also, none of these Democrats wore masks. They did do kind of weird ritualistic headbutts, though, as seen in this particular video. But it's fair to say that his speech definitely didn't give him any fanfare from the left, as AOC called this speech a, quote, lost opportunity, as she wanted to hear more about renewable energy, a policy, of course, domestically here in the United States that has gotten rid of domestic energy exploration and has created policies that make us now buy oil from Russia, financing the largest war effort, which, of course, other countries are doing the same. Germany got rid of their nuclear power plants in order to promote renewable energies, in order to appease AOC and Greta Thunberg. And now, of course, they're importing records amount of Russian oil, which is financing the larger conflict in Ukraine right now, which I think is an important point to talk about here, especially since these policies are praised by MSNBC and other corporate media establishments that in this time are calling for more of them. For some reason, this as Biden also promised that Putin has no idea what's coming, as he's planning to launch more attacks on the Russian people, the Russian oligarchs, and of course the president of Russia himself. All of course as the president of the United States tells you not to worry about a nuclear war with Russia, as the United States is literally testing and making sure that their doomsday plane works effectively. This as we have the latest news of the president's own VIP doomsday plane going on a 4-hour training flight, hours after, of course, the president of Russia upped his country's nuclear readiness. As today, we have the Russian foreign minister warning that if the conflict in Ukraine becomes global, that this will be a nuclear war that will be destructive for everyone, which is an absolutely crazy place we have been put into by, of course, big governments that have become too big, too unaccountable, too powerful, and puts us in this terrible situation, which we've been telling you was going to be happening and how we've been preparing for, specifically all on our own independent platform, LukeUncensored.com, where, of course, we will be continuing this conversation from here, as, of course, even the New York Times is releasing op-eds today arguing that World War III has already begun and that we might as well already start to attack Russia. Again, lots of insanity in the corporate press. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be prepared, you shouldn't be ready for whatever's coming your way. And hey, that's why I like to talk about that stuff specifically on LukeUncensored.com, where, of course, also we're going to be talking about a lot of other things that we cannot talk about here on this particular platform. Join us later for that conversation just by clicking the link down in the description below and finding out more. It's also where you get exclusive merchandise and in real life events that are only available to members of this organization. Now, when you have clearly failed political leaders like Hillary Clinton on the bully pulpit, calling the shots here, trying to influence the people here to create the same situation that unfolded in Afghanistan to be implemented in Ukraine, you know that we are in some very serious troubles, as of course these policies are promoted by Clinton to, quote, help the people of Ukraine, which in my opinion should be desperately questioned since, of course, there was a lot of failed policies when it came to Afghanistan. All of this is happening as we're also learning that some Syrian rebels soon might be fighting in Europe, as we have this article from the Middle East Eye that is talking about how rebels from Syria soon might be making the passage to Europe to get, quote, revenge against Russia. It's also important to note here that Russians in Syria were predominantly fighting Sunni Wahhabist groups. Some of them were known as al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, and of course ISIS. Some important context to understand here, as of course we're also dealing with what people are calling the fog of war, as we're dealing with an ever emotional and dangerous situation that of course is affecting everyone. This as it's becoming harder and harder to find out what actually is happening in Ukraine, as Ukrainian officials are reporting that more than 5,800 Russian soldiers have been eliminated and perished in this conflict. The Russians officially are saying that it's only 498 Russian servicemen that have been taken out, with 1,600 of them being wounded. Is it 500 soldiers or 5,800? Who's telling the truth here? Who knows? Because it's almost impossible to fact check any of these things. A lot of information has been weaponized for propaganda purposes, but I think it is fair to say that this conflict is escalating and only going to be escalating from here. In the West, we are hearing that Ukraine is absolutely obliterating the Russians, making a major stand, preventing the Russians from fully taking over Ukraine, which of course the United States expected it to be done in the next few days. There's a lot of photos and videos of Russian tanks being destroyed that are being propagated and repeated all over social media, and there is some circumstantial evidence suggesting that there is a possibility for this to be true, especially on the face value if you're seeing this as a full-on invasion, a full-on occupation, and a strategy by Russia that wants to take over Ukraine as fast and as soon as possible. If that's the case, of course. Now, is that the strategy? Well, we do not know if it is or isn't, but according to some military strategists, what we're seeing in Ukraine is just the start of a longer campaign, as I've been kind of alluding to and as I've been kind of thinking was going to happen, where some people are speculating that the strategy of Putin was to have a limited campaign in the beginning of this, where he only brought in a small number of forces. He brought in some of the gear that he didn't really want, that was old, that he didn't mind losing, that he wanted a limited campaign that didn't take over Ukraine in the very beginning, allegedly giving opportunity for Ukrainian soldiers to surrender, and civilian populations, some of which are connected to Russia, do speak Russian, allowing them and giving them a chance to flee and leave the area in order to, of course, prevent civilian casualties and to create a long-term strategy that, of course, would help potentially have less of a life loss here. Again, this is all hypothetical. This is the strategy that some people are saying Putin is implementing. Is this strategy the one he's implementing? Who knows? This is a theory shared by Bill Raguo, who of course is also a military strategist, who of of course, is questioning the Russian setbacks, the possible logistical nightmares, as, of course, a misunderstanding of a Russian strategy that we might not be aware of. Now, this is important to understand for many reasons, as it does look like within the last few hours that this strategy has changed. There have been major announcements by the Russians towards the Ukrainian people that things will change very dramatically, that if there are civilians, that they should leave immediately, as the shelling has dramatically increased, especially in the city of Mariupol, that just went through 15 hours of shelling, which according to officials there has left hundreds of people dead. And from the photos and videos that we are getting, we are definitely seeing a drastic escalation of tactics. There was also another major explosion in the city of Kharkiv, which allegedly was a munitions depot. And again, we're still finding everything out, and it's important to question a lot of the initial reports here, as of course there is a lot of propaganda, a lot of disinformation, and a total information war happening right now that is meant to convince you of an idea that might not be true. There's also a 40-mile long convoy outside of Kiev that most likely will be an occupation force, and this possible strategy by Bill Rodrigo could possibly be true, especially with all the protests that Putin is facing at home. This is the latest footage coming from St. Petersburg, Russia, where people are protesting the invasion of Ukraine, which, of course, a lot of Ukrainian and Russian people see themselves as not only their neighbors, but people who share a language and also share a lot of culture. Now, the response by the West has largely been symbolic to a lot of this. The UN General Assembly just voted to condemn Russia. Symbolically, the EU is approving new sanctions now on Belarus. The World Bank and IMF are trying to give loans to Ukraine, which they're going to have to pay back with probably blood, sweat, and tears of their compatriots and fellow citizens in the next coming years. Georgia has just applied for an EU membership immediately. Of course, Ukraine just did the same. All of this as major European Union countries and the United States are still buying Russian gas, financing their war effort. But of course, this geopolitical situation becomes even more complex when we talk about the latest news surrounding China, as Biden just sent a defense delegation to Taiwan, which China says the U.S. will pay a heavy price for. Japan is also calling on the United States to be able to house and host their nuclear weapons on the doorsteps of China, as some people have speculated that China may use this opportunity to, of course, launch an invasion against Taiwan. Will this happen? So far, it doesn't look like it will. The conflict in Ukraine only looks like it's beginning, which is absolutely sad, especially for all the innocent people caught up in this utter nonsense and madness that looks like there's no way of de-escalating from here. Again, that's just my perspective. Do you think I'm wrong? If you do think I'm wrong, let me know why in the comment section below. I appreciate constructive criticism. I do tend to lean to this theory shared by Bill Rodrigo. I do believe there is ample evidence to believe so. I do believe there is such a large propaganda effort that a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is being absolutely muddied in the larger fog of war that is happening. I'm going to be continuing this conversation and talking about this story more in depth, specifically on LukeUncensored.com. I hope to see you there later on today. We just released our interview with a very prominent doctor about some bombshell revelations on that platform yesterday as well, so don't forget to check that out. And again, I'm refocusing my strategy as, of course, having our own infrastructure, having our own platform is more important than ever. If you haven't signed up to the email list, if you haven't signed up to LukeUncensored.com, what are you waiting for? If you want more context specifically about this story, I definitely recommend you watch the video here. I finally got my finger placement right. I usually got to get it wrong. Watch the video here that we just released a couple days ago to give you important context to how this has been building, to what's been going on. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.